to the next slide. All right, so for those I haven't met yet, my name is Leah. I'm actually from Seattle, which is kind of rare. I don't know if there's anyone else from Seattle here. Kind of, yeah. Oh, wow. It's probably some Amazon, Microsoft, startups. But yeah, I currently am from Seattle, recently moved to New York for work, but I spent a lot of my time working at Microsoft. I did a lot in product development research, specifically families. I did a little bit about storytelling demos, launching Windows 11 this past year, which you might see my grandpa in a demo video. He's a big Windows fanboy. I still rock my Surface right here. And I actually do a lot of projects outside of work, but I did move to LinkedIn. And so I am currently double-clicking into creator economy. So anything Web3 related, creator related, that's what I do at LinkedIn. But outside of work, I actually focus on Web3 consulting. So if you want to talk about NFTs, Web3 utility, DAOs, my startup, we put the first NFT in the Super Bowl. So I was just in LA for the Super Bowl. Go LA Rams, they won. Our player actually wore our NFT to press day. So I'm really into creative marketing, thinking about ways we can tell stories in unique ways. But today, I'm going to be talking about my first love, which is sparkles. So what is a sparkle? When I started at Microsoft, it was really fascinating. We're trying to understand, how do we think about unmet need? What is human-centered design? What is design thinking? When I brought these terms up to my coworkers, they're like, HCDE, like human-centered design engineer, like what is that? And I realized how important opportunity it was to really double-click into how do we get insights, not only quantitative, but qualitative, to then think about new ideas in really human-centered ways. It was, how do we go about and think about it to invest? So because it's a lot of my presentation that your team is moving forward. But one of the things here is our team partnered with IDEO. For those who don't know IDEO, it's a pretty big design agency based in SF. They are one of the first groups that really fostered human-centered design, and that is what we did. We wanted to understand, how do we go about it? So this partnership started, we partnered with about 100 PMMs internally at Microsoft, and we actually developed these activation days. And so before the pandemic hit, we were able to gather in a room like this, actually. I know there's like a couple folks that participated. I think Becky's here from Microsoft previously as well. And we did some ideation together with IDEO, and they left this ideation toolkit with us on like, how do we do this ad hoc without IDEO holding our hands? And that was one of the cool ways we were able to start there. And what they presented in the conversation with us was, like, how might we understand these sparkles? Sparkles really meaning insights. And so as we go to the next slide here, that is what sparkles is defined as. And what I love most about being a product marketer, and we kind of discussed this on the panel earlier, is the fact that we get to champion and be advocates for our users and customers. And I think that's super, super special to do. I think everyone has a reason why they got into product marketing, ability to be creative insights to champion really are human-centered. So today I'll be walking through kind of 4 different methods: ideation cards. So these are quick and scrappy exercises that you can do with your team. Co-creation, this is a lot of fun. You get to co-design with your users and participants. Usability studies, a little bit more user research focused, but thinking about how do you gather feedback and do quick, rapid prototyping. And lastly, roundtables, thinking about how do you get quantitative data and mix that with qualitative. So there's a little bit we'll be walking through, and feel free to submit questions as they come along. And you might have seen some of these methods already at work, so I'm just kind of double-clicking into some of the ones here. So going into a little bit of a story, when I first started at Microsoft, they were like, okay, Leah, you're gonna be doing family research. And I'm okay, like, have just my sister and my parents. Like, how do I understand family for Microsoft? And the big question they wanted to understand is, what does family physical safety mean and digital safety mean, and how do we think about new products? I'm like, okay, that's a huge question, like new products for families, thinking about these big topics. And so a huge piece of what we needed to do was, how do we get these product teams to start even thinking about ideas in ways that, again, are human-centered and can guide conversation. And so this was the first time our product teams were able to gather together, and we told them, here's sticky notes, here's a sticky note wall, here's Sharpies, we're gonna be drawing today. And they're like, okay, let's go about it, let's do it. And so one of the methods that we really leveraged were these ideation sharing with all you today. This is a design called Artifact down the street. My sister just signed a full-time offer over there. She's a more talented designer than me, but she's really starting a full-time role in investigating questions like this. But what Artifact did really well, they created these persona cards that you can use with your product teams, where you can click into these ideas around, if we have these solutions, are we asking the right questions to think about long-term impact? So if you go online to artifact.com, you can click through this scenario, and each of these rows here that are showcasing are exercises that you can do virtually or in person to ensure, is your product having long-term impact that's thinking about environmental safety? Are you thinking about ways this could be used for harm? Is there other use cases where this could be taken the wrong direction? And really thinking about other ways the product can kind of spark ideas that addresses these areas. And so ideation cards, ideation exercise, idea to, okay, a lot of the focus we did, qualitative angle when we for focus groups, was speaking to families. And one thing that I learned through this was we had a back room where we put the families, parents and kids together, and they're sharecasing, oh, like, what does digital safety mean to you? And every single parent we spoke with was like, my child is a good child. They don't do anything dangerous online. And all of us were like, interesting, okay, all right, you do have a good kid. And then we separated the kids together. And we had the parent in one room, the child in a different room, and we heard a totally different story from the kid. Links they received, times they felt scared, some Instagram messages they got that they shouldn't have gotten. They're like, don't tell my parents this information. And that's when we realized how important it is to co-create with the kids itself and not just think about the parents' perspective, especially when you're trying to design a family safety sort of application. We often think about one other group, but when we are a Figma board, and we invited create what family safety app should look like and hear from them, if you had a magic wand, what would it look like for you, for digital safety? How would this be helpful for you? And our teams really dug deep into this kind of child perspective that oftentimes we miss because we're prioritizing the parent. And we're actually able, we submitted a patent on this actually to think about a new solution for Microsoft. And so going here is an exercise that's kind of showing you what we did in a different scenario. So I am a part-time grad student at UW, so I'm able to show this screenshot. This is actually my grad project. But this is a kind of a walkthrough on how do you use a virtual whiteboard, especially during a time of pandemic, to co-create with participants. So the example that you're seeing here is really, really easy. If you have paper and a Sharpie or a pen, there's an exercise called Crazy Eights. Has anyone done Crazy Eights before? A few folks, yeah. Crazy Eights is an exercise where you create a how might we question, like how might we better design safety on Instagram? How might we better design to make you feel safe? And through this exercise, you an 8 different, you can fold it, and they sketch their ideal solution in each box. So you have 30 seconds, go. Sketch what you think. 30 seconds, switch, new idea, so on and so forth. So you have 8 new ideas from that child or your participant and user, and they're able to showcase to you something that you might have not even known. Gen Z or a younger person may consider a great solution, right? Or whatever your target group is. And through this method, we were able to break down each of those boxes and put it into this whiteboard and then start grouping together key themes on what is a great product solution that we can consider and present to our product partners. And this is all co-creating with your target user. And all of this is really easy to organize. Figma, Miro, Mural, Microsoft Whiteboard, all these tools are actually free. Some of your companies may already provide you access to that, which is great. And this is a template we found online, which they have a whole bunch of templates to organize crazy eights. And again, just new ideas and concepts from your target user, and it does visuals of these sketches. The next example here, research partners have done in UX research or CX or so on and so forth. But I do think it's really crucial to understand how these usability studies work as a PMM. So one of the projects I've done is thinking about the metaverse. Like, what is the metaverse? So Microsoft has something called AltSpace VR. It's Microsoft's first kind of metaverse simulation. So definitely check it out. It's not like the best, but it does the job pretty well. You can see an image of a kind of avatar right there. So it's a mix of both 3D metaverse, so you could see it actually in a kind of VR headset, as you can see the participants right here. But you can also view this metaverse in 2D mode, which is really cool. You can do it on your computer, and you can walk around, you can talk to people, you can hold your Teams meeting in here. It's really, really fun. But one of the things we realize is, what is the user experience of this usability study? Metaverse is a very, very poppy buzzword. There's probably a lot of new features and thoughts we can investigate about a project of mine on my coworkers who told me they were interested in. I was like, hey, to do a quick usability study with me. And so the previous image is actually literally my Microsoft coworkers in a Microsoft room. And we were able to just kind of play around with this device and gather feedback. And one of the ways we leveraged a virtual whiteboard space was, one, each participant had its own column here, and we were able to take notes directly in this virtual whiteboard space. So instead of a Microsoft Word or Google Doc, you take sticky notes of each participants, and then you're able to kind of group key themes with your product partners. So every product partner we had to do this with, you invite them in the process, they can see the notes, they can see the images you put in, the participant that was being focused on, and what are the areas that you can think about as key pain points if they're not seeing it as clearly as you're seeing it as a PMM. And this exercise, again, was pretty simple to do. A lot of the organization, I put in a virtual whiteboard, really or MS Book, an easy way to think about a quick pulse check on where is the pain points of the product that you're thinking about. And the last kind of method here that I definitely want to touch upon is roundtables. So obviously we're in a situation where we're kind of in a roundtable right now. But when I switched to LinkedIn just 2 months ago, this is us, that's me in the LinkedIn room in New York, and we're like, how do we hear from our customer and user? So a lot of what I do on LinkedIn is working with creators that create on the platform. And we're like, what is missing on LinkedIn? We see a lot of LinkedIn content, but people don't really view us as a creator platform. Does that mean we're creators? Just because we have a newsletter option or you can post content? And so a huge part of LinkedIn's new strategy is basically everyone in this room who has posted some sort of thing on LinkedIn, you are a creator. And so LinkedIn has this new program called the Creator Accelerator Program. So this is an opportunity where we have creators who receive grants to create on the platform, but we also have something where we manage creators as well. And we have creator managers based on industry who are specialized in a specific area. And what we wanted to do was invite these creators on site with us. We wanted to hear what they love about LinkedIn, what they hate about LinkedIn, what we can improve on, show them the office, make them feel included. And so we were able to do that, obviously because the pandemic is a little bit better in New York. But we have also done, so this is a Facebook, we want to do a pulse check. We're looking for different users to join this product group and listening session. There's over 7.5K members in this group. And again, this is 100% free to do. You just probably need permission from your team lead. Another example that I'm definitely going to plug is LinkedIn. LinkedIn has similar as well. There's LinkedIn groups where you can do this. LinkedIn does a lot of beta on this platform. Part of what I do to BIs and what I have to deliver, and there's just so many expectations. But the scrappy methods to reconnect with the people you're building for, I feel just makes this job so meaningful and important. So you being a PMM, just remember, why are you here building what you're building today? How can you continue connecting with your user groups, even though you're in the midst of different projects and deliverables and execution, again, there's super quick ways to go about it. And again, that's why, I'm here to do this. If you ever want to reach out to me, this is my website, but you can also find me on LinkedIn, obviously. I'm happy to connect as well. And I'll open up for questions.
Leah, thank you. That's really cool. And always looking for new tools and new ideas is phenomenal. 2 questions that's come through so far. So first one, what's the best way for a PMM to be effective when championing some of these sparkles?
Yeah, so I think that's a really great question. Some of the methods that I found to be a big champion is I realized going to a meeting and just verbally saying it hasn't been as helpful because it's like me, Leah, advocating for like Lisa, like who was in my focus group. So one of the things that I found to be like help that situation is one, having any sort of soundbite or video from that focus group that you can present on that call. Any sort of visual, any sort of video clip that could kind of be backed up would be great. And I also found that the focus group Figma boards that we've done to make it a little bit more visually appealing for these teams to see has also been really good too.
Oh, cool. Awesome. I think this next one comes from your family's research, separating the kids from the parents. But what's the most surprising thing you learned during your family's research that you can share with us?
That's a great question. So one of the terms that came up in our focus group was like the term Netflix and chill. So I don't know if you know the term Netflix and chill. And so a parent was like, we asked like parent and kid together, what's your favorite weekend activity to do as a family? And the mom said, Netflix and chill together. and the child said, oh my God, no, like that is not what we do. Like, trust me, that we do not Netflix and chill as a family. And the mom completely just did not understand like the term. It was like, what do you mean? We Netflix and chill all the time. The child was just so embarrassed. So we, through that focus group, we realized there is definitely a disconnect on just some of the terminology and understanding of how people view technology at different age groups, and especially separating the child and parent away from each other. Make the child feel much safer to vocalize what truly has happened. So again, if you're working with different user groups, especially like families, separating the child and parent with their permission is probably the best method to go, because we just saw the child completely change and tell us the truth on what goes on their phones and how they feel and the drama between their friends. We're like, wow, we're learning a lot that we wouldn't have if their parent was in that room.
That's great. I'll remember that one now. Sorry, change a little bit. How do you manage breaking through what seems like product and UX design space?
Wait, this question is, how do you manage breaking through? Yeah, so I think the difference, so I came in as a designer, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start in product research management at Microsoft. So what does that mean for me as a designer being a PMM? And all my friends were like, why are you being a PMM if you're a designer? And when I started as a product research manager, I kept telling everyone, I want to do human-centered design. I want to bridge insights to ideas, and presented like all these scrappy methods to my team to then be able to experiment and show them the value of why this is so important to have these insights readily available to then build better products. So I just kind of made it a little bit more of like my personal brand as I started, and wanted to do opportunity that allowed me to do research and product development.
Very cool. So when you're doing that research, and I think sort of coming in as a designer, working as a PMM, Microsoft to LinkedIn, how do you manage stakeholders in swim lanes?
Yeah, that's a great question. So every new project that I've done here, I've definitely tried to set up like expectation, like, oh, this is my role as a PMM, and this is the kind of area of research that I'm focusing in on. Is that helpful to partner with you on this? So every time we did any sort of design sprint or ideation session to gather these sparkles, if you will, every stakeholder that was more PMM centered or engineering or PM centered was in the loop and part of the process, so they understood how they can join in or we're not duplicating efforts.
Cool. And to double click on that one, how do you interact or work with PMs as you're going through that process?
Yeah, so definitely from the very beginning stage when we're identifying what area we want to focus in, telling them like this is the area of what research we're doing and this is what you're doing and seeing if there's overlap. So we're aligned in the very beginning stage.
Fantastic. Leah, thank you so much.